Commission. We want the Election Commission to give a satisfactory answer to why this fraudulent process were being condoned or done, and they are clearly, or they were, complicit to the crime.
Anwar Ibrahim has yet to concede defeat, but these allegations are not likely to reverse the results, reverse the situation. The concern right now is that his supporters may go to the streets in protest, but so far it's been peaceful, it's been quiet, no indication of that happening. Sue.
Now, speaking of the vote, I think it was a pretty high turnout. A lot of Malaysians coming out to have their say in this election.
You bet. Record turnout, 80% compared to the last election back in 2008. It was 75%, and 13 million of them. Now, I want to highlight the results of the votes, what it stands for. The ruling coalition won seats. That's 2 fewer than the last election when it lost a 2/3 majority and it won by the narrowest of margins. It has become a ruling coalition because Najib Razak had wanted to secure at least 140. Now, when you take a look at how the Chinese went to the opposition, which means they're losing confidence in the ruling coalition for reasons such as policies based on race. The Bumi give preferential treatment to the Malays. They want that reverse. They want greater transparency. So Najib Razak going forward has to address all these. He wants his people to come together. Reconciliation would be key. Sue.
All right. Hazlin Amin, our Southeast Asia correspondent, to Kuala Lumpur.
Well, stocks in Malaysia rose to a record after the election. We spoke to Idris Jalla, a minister in the PM's office. He said the result is a clear sign that voters are government and its economic reforms.
The election clearly gave the Barisan Nasional the thumbs up for continuing with the economic transformation program. In fact, we did a recent survey. We commissioned Frost & Sullivan. It's a very big sample of 22,000 people, and that's very representative. When we did that, 82% of the investors and Malaysians have said that the ETP and the GTP are positive, and they are encouraged by the success that has been delivered.
But some of our other guests today disagreed and said the outcome doesn't necessarily mean investors think the reforms are guaranteed.
If you look at Malaysia versus some of its peers in ASEAN, it's starting to fall behind. Reforms have to be undertaken, and that's something that investors are going to look for beyond today. And they can say, okay, how likely is it that we're going to see reform? How likely is it that the competitive level of Malaysia is going to be maintained? And if the answer is yes, the market will continue to go higher. If the answer is, well, we don't know, you're going to start to see some of those gains evaporate.
And Tan Teng Bu, CEO at Capital Dynamics, says the result has actually created more questions than answers.
I think the election results have created more uncertainties than clarity. First thing is the majority has been reduced, and secondly is you find that the PKR, the Pakatan Rakyat, is actually representing Malaysian in a more complete manner than Barisan Nasional. So I think the bigger picture has more uncertainties, and I think that has to be, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we see better clarity with statements coming of the political fans.
And that, Susan, is today's word from Malaysia.
Okay, well, let's take a look at how markets are responding, and we're looking at a pretty big pop. Also, the Kuala Lumpur index as well. Here's John Dawson once again. John.
That's right, you can see the ringgit there again up by now 2.5%, the biggest jump since June 2010 at 1% until the last half an hour, so it really has seen a lot more strength again very quickly, again close to 3 almost. Stocks clearly on the move, Genting there up by 5.5% more than that percent. CIMB there up by 9% again. These are the obvious ones. Every single stock, I must tell you, in the Malaysian benchmark is seeing a gain. The benchmark itself is at a record high today. I mentioned before the volume is an extraordinary 2,000 times, or beyond that now, 2,000 times the daily average. Therefore, a lot of volume, record high, every stock is up. Shows you, therefore, that's a reaction to, again, the ruling coalition staying in power. Now, in Australia, you can see the resource story is what is driving this market. For example, nickel, you can see this stock there up by 37% now. Opened this morning by 20% gain. Big gains, therefore, in the last, again, 1 hour to half an hour. Remember, nickel up by there. Big gains for that stock. Malaysian player as well. This actually an operational plant that makes rare earths. Australian company in Malaysia. Therefore, they're benefiting from the Malaysian gains as well as their own resources. And then you've got BHP there, also up by 2.5%. A big weighting, in fact, on that market.
Yeah, and I'm curious about how much of this is also coming from the U.S. side as well, the beat in non-farm payrolls. I mean, Hong Kong might be reacting more to that as well.
It is, in fact. Look at the Hong Kong story. You can see, again, big gains as well for that. Resources, China resources, Petrotron again. This is Susan was saying. A lot of this down to the U.S. story again. I mentioned before, U.S. jobs, 165,000 added in the month of April. That was quite encouraging, obviously better than forecast. Signs of a recovery economy. With that, therefore, the Dow went through 15,000, first time ever. S&P closed at a record high, and therefore you're seeing big gains, therefore that rally continuing, and therefore that's the foundation. So also the Sands China, Barron's had a report on Friday that in fact casino stocks are actually more or less immune to the concern about a slowing down of stories. Las Vegas Sands last week reporting a buyback, again also a surprise dividend, and that's quite encouraging for that. Shares therefore in Sands China up by 2%. So.
Well, a roundup now of some of the other main headlines today. France has declared the end of austerity after Germany agreed to be more flexible